Okay, thanks for your patience. A bit of a slow start this morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for Gambling Harm Awareness Week 2025. I'm Lauren and I'm the Programs Manager at Amity Community Services. And together with my team, we run the Gambling Harm Awareness Week campaign annually for the Northern Territory. So I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands we meet on today, the Larrakia people, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. I'd also like to recognise the vast experience, knowledge, and skills that we have in this room today, including those with lived experience. This week is about bringing community together to talk openly about gambling and its impacts. We know gambling is part of life for many Territorians, but for some it can start to feel heavy, affecting not only individuals, but families and communities. That's why this year's campaign theme asks, is gambling weighing on you? It's a simple question, but it's an important one. If gambling is starting to feel like a burden on your health, your finances, or your relationships, we want you to know that help is available and you don't have to face it alone. The latest 2023 Gambling Prevalence and Wellbeing Survey shows us how important this conversation is. Since 2018, problem gambling has increased by 70%, and harms caused by someone else's gambling has risen by 25%. Online gambling and pokies remain the biggest risks, and Aboriginal Territorians continue to be impacted the most, unfortunately. But we're not here today to talk only about statistics. We're here to share support, resources, and practical steps like setting limits, reaching out for help, or just having a chat with someone you trust. This week, you'll see messages and resources rolled out across venues, community organisations and health services. Our goal is a simple one, to start conversations, raise awareness and support each other so that gambling harm doesn't continue to weigh on Territorians. Today, we've got an amazing panel here with us to share their knowledge and insights with us all. Then we'll break for lunch and an opportunity to mingle and chat. Then at 12 o'clock, we'll split into groups to share our thoughts about gambling in the Northern Territory. You don't have to stay for this, but it'd be great if you could, as your input's really valuable in shaping gambling harm minimisation efforts across the sector. Now let's meet the panel. So from the right, we have Louie Yang. She's a Gambling Project Officer at Amity Community Services. Then we've got Katie Scrivens, who's the Gambling Project Coordinator at Catholic Care NT. Charles Nasir, Facilitator for the Recovery Together courses at NT Lived Experience Network. Dr. Matthew Stevens, and Matt is a Consultant Researcher at STRS Consultant Services. Then we have Tanya Whitehead. Tanya is the Counselling Manager at Amity Community Services. Erica Harper and Kieran Heaver, and they're Senior Gaming Inspectors at Licensing NT. Please give them a round of applause. So the first question is for Louie. Louie, what is Amity's role in gambling harm reduction in the community?
So Amity delivers NT-wide primary and secondary prevention. So that is to prevent gambling harm from happening and to reduce harm when it does happen. So on the prevention side, we run health promotion services. So we create resources with the critical information on help seeking. They're all available on that table. And now we are having those resources in multilingual form. So it's more accessible for the diverse population in NT. We also host events like today, like the G-Hall event, to raise awareness of gambling harm within the community. We also work with the community organizations and the gaming industry to deliver those prevention strategies. So on the community side, we support organizations to respond to gambling harm via staff capacity building sessions, and we engage clients of existing services on healthy decision-making in regard of gambling. And on the industry side, so in NT, all gaming venue staff are required to undergo responsible gambling training. This is under the NT 2023 Responsible Gambling Code of Conduct. So Amity is a provider of the training to all staff members of gaming venues. So this is a really important initiative as venue staff is usually the first point of contact with customers who are experiencing gambling harm. So apart from prevention, we also offer intervention, that is counseling to whoever is impacted by gambling. So that's the client-facing side of Amity.
Great, thanks, Louie. Now, Katie, Can you tell us what the Gambling and My Community program is, what it's about, and why it started?
Yeah, sure. So, as Lauren said, I'm Katie. I'm from Catholic Care. So, the Gambling and My Community is a harm minimisation project that is a pilot project funded by the NT government through the Community Benefit Fund. And we are trialling this pilot project in Wadair, Warramyunga, Alice Springs, and Santa Teresa, so all remote communities. And the way we've designed this project is to be a education project, a health promotion project. So building education, building awareness of the harms from gambling, but by training local harm educators in these communities to deliver the education how they want, in the language they want, in the way they want. So during the consultation phase, I asked them, what do you want? And they said, we want local people to have this knowledge. So they said, what knowledge do you want? We've found that information together, and then we are trying to scale up that project now to run without me having to be out in community, and then hopefully next year when the project finishes in June 2026 to just receive more funding to scale up to more communities and across the NT.
Great, thanks, Katie. Charles, next question's for you. What are some of the challenges people experiencing gambling problems may have when trying to seek support?
So I'll go through some, and it's from a lived experience perspective. So often people are unaware that they actually have a problem. It gets normalized by those around you, such as family, friends, colleagues, that sort of thing. And not knowing what specific supports are available beyond the name of an organization or what it looks like to have a problem.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Charles. This one's for Matt. Matt, can you tell us a little about the gambling landscape in the NT? Who's
Sure.
most at risk of experiencing harm from gambling?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Matt. Been up in the Territory for about 25 years. I first started working in gambling research around 2006. So I guess over that period of time, we've seen a few changes. We've seen sort of more increases in the number of pokies available in communities. We've seen changes to how you can put your money into pokies. We've seen the rise of online gambling since the late 2000s. So it's been a changing landscape. In terms of territory, there's been slight declines across a number of sort of activities like your sort of raffles and your scratch tickets and things like that. But generally, it's been fairly stable how much and how many people are gambling, though it has been going down, the number of people gambling. In terms of risk factors, I guess they've been pretty consistent over the last 15 years anyway, besides the advent of online gambling. So it's pretty consistent across Australia, not just the NT, that younger people aged under 30 and under 40 tend to be at much higher risk than older people with their gambling. We find men tend to have higher risk of gambling harm compared to women. It's not to say women do not experience gambling harm as well, but certainly men are more likely to experience gambling harm. Tends to be overcrowded houses or group households, basically. So often these households, sort of one person's gambling can affect multiple people. In terms of the territory, we find that households where English isn't spoken at home tend to experience higher levels of gambling harm. Aboriginal Territorians also experience higher levels of gambling harm compared to non-Aboriginal. And lower education is another sort of factor that's associated with that. There's also a number of health risk factors that tend to be associated with gambling harm, and that's the health risk factors tend to be things like if people have alcohol problems, they're more likely to also experience gambling problems. Smokers also tend to experience gambling problems at higher levels than your non-smokers. And it's also associated with psychological distress, so people experiencing mental health problems. And that's a bit of a two-way one, though. So it's possible that the gambling causes the poorer mental health problems, or someone with poorer mental health problems uses gambling to escape from some of those things. So that's quite common as well. The other risk factors, which we're sort of probably all pretty aware of, is your online gambling. So that's mostly your racetrack and your horses or your sports betting. Casino table games are associated with higher risk of gambling problems. And the strongest predictor of gambling problems is pokies. So particularly those people who are playing pokies weekly or monthly, have much higher levels of gambling problems.
Thanks, Matt. Tanya, what is multi-venue self-exclusion?
So multi-venue self-exclusion, or MVSE, it is it's a legal document or a deed, and that's to exclude yourselves from venues. And there are choices, because sometimes you still want to go and have dinner somewhere, so it's not a complete exclusion. So you can do a whole venue exclusion. You can do a total gambling ban, so gaming machines, or selected area like tab only, or just table games. So it's pretty. There's a bit of choice around there. You don't have to exclude completely.
Great. Thanks, Tanya. Erica, what must venues do to comply with their gambling harm minimisation requirements as part of the NT Code of Practice for Responsible Gambling 2022?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Erica. This is Kieran. We are both NT gaming inspectors. It is our privilege to speak in front of everyone today. What must venues do to comply with the Code of Responsible Gambling in our eyes as gaming inspectors? They have to demonstrate. They have to demonstrate a gaming environment with best practice. And what is best practice in gaming? That the room's supervised, that the venues know their customers in that room, that the venues actually check in on every gaming machine in that venue, not just put their head in. So the Code of Practice, ladies and gentlemen, is designed as a guideline for the venues, so they know how to deliver gaming to patrons in a responsible manner. Okay, so that's what we require of them. They just need to demonstrate that they're aware.
Okay. So round 2 of questions now. Back to Louis. So Louis, who can access Amity's services and what can they expect after coming in?
Access Amity services. So everyone who is impacted by gambling. So that means if I am a gambler and I'm seeking some help, I can go to Amity for counseling. If I'm not gambling, but I'm really worried about my family, my friend, my loved ones gambling, I can also go to Amity for counseling too. So what to expect after coming in? So the first counseling sessions is always assessments, where we will try to get to know you and to understand your situation holistically. And the following sessions will be collaborative counseling, where we will work alongside you to reach your goal, whether it will be to manage your gambling or just to stop completely.
Thanks, Louis. Katie, what types of gambling are most common in community and what are their impacts?
Yeah, sure. So during the first 6 months of the Gambling in My Community project, I spent months and months and months talking to over about 400 people in the remote communities we service in the Northern Territory, asking them what sort of gambling is happening here. So lots of people said they go to Darwin or Alice Springs quite regularly to play on pokie machines. Lots of people said they play a lot of card games each day, but the number one thing that was rising and everyone was concerned about was online pokie machines on their phones, sometimes called Ding Ding or Ting Ting or Slap Slap, and they look like pokie machine games on your phone. And of the people I spoke to, there probably would have been about 10 who said they hadn't heard of them, and maybe another 20 who said that they didn't know anyone playing. So talking about 350 people of the people I spoke to saying that I play or my family plays every single day. We spend a lot of money on these games. So as a result of this, the harm that we see is a lot of people in remote communities spending a lot of money on fake online casino games. And I'll talk a bit afterwards about some of the other impacts in some of the other questions.
Thanks, Katie. Charles, next one's for you. What are some signs people might notice to indicate that someone might need support?
So when they prioritize gambling above family, relationship, and financial responsibilities, So I was 16 and in the casino and lost a week's pay in one night. So that's one example. And also some mentalities like seeing it as a way to earn money or win back losses, and believing in tricks and strategies for poker machines. And also feeling a rush when you win, or looking at gambling related imagery, and people discussing odds and different gambling products. So that can trigger that sort of rush.
Thanks, Charles. Next one's for you, Matt. What types of gambling are most common in the NT?
Yeah, thanks. As I said earlier, I guess it's been fairly stable over the last 15 years, even with online gambling coming on. Things like your racetrack betting and your sports betting hasn't increased in its use a lot, actually, in terms when we look at the whole population. Lotto is always your most common types of gambling. Most people like to put in a gold lotto every week or two, or when it's a big draw. Then we've got raffles. Pokies come up as around the third most common, and Keno, racetrack betting, online gambling, so that includes your sports and racetrack betting. Then we got scratchies, your casino table games, and formal betting. But I guess it's important to realise there's a lot of difference in how often people are playing these games as well. So while Lotto's played by comes up around 50% of people, it's the most commonly played weekly game. Things like your racetrack betting, there's only around 10% of the people who gamble on it would do it weekly. And similarly with pokies, like it might be a quarter of the population, but around 80% of that group, most of that group only play pokies a few times a year. So there's that smaller group and a lot of these activities that are a little bit more intensive gamblers. So they're the difficult ones. I guess another one that's related to the most common forms is we sort of find people who gamble on more different types of gambling, they're going to be gambling more. So that definitely predisposes people to a higher risk of experiencing harm from their gambling and harm to others. So that's the general rundown there. Thanks.
Tanya, how can people register for MVSE?
3 ways to register for MVSE. And I actually forgot to say in my last question, I've got samples here if anyone wants to just have a look at what it does involve. Because it's a document that you've got to fill in, but when it's done online, it's actually quite a quick process. Okay, so you can do it via a counsellor. We do encourage counselling, but you can just come in for the deed, to do the deed. That sounds awful. You can come in to do the legal document. You can go to the venue, and staff at the venue can help you. And apparently you can make an appointment with Hospitality NT as well to fill in the legal document. What you need is, like I say, it's a simple process. Online is much easier than handwritten, because all the venues come up. You put one of the venues, you can have up to 35. I'll talk about that, I think, a bit later. And it just lists all the ones in the area that you first tap in. And you need ID, so that can just be some kind of general ID, photo ID, driver's license, something like that, and you need a photo to upload onto the Clubs in New South Wales.
Thanks, Tanya. And we'll pop those sample deeds up there if you want to see them on that table later. Kieran, how does Licensing NT support venues to meet their requirements?
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Under the Gaming Machine Act and Gaming Control Act, we've got objectives and we've got regulatory principles, and they guide us in how we conduct our day-to-day activities. One of the principles is ensuring that the industry is sustainable, but the other important one is that to ensure that venues provide a safe environment for their players. So we look at the code of practice and other requirements, and we guide the licensees on how to achieve those. we break down the intent of the legislation and the code, and we ensure that licensees really understand what they're trying to achieve, and just guide them in the right direction to ensure that their players are gambling in a safe environment.
Thanks, Karen. So back round to Louis again now. What are some options, Louis, for people experiencing gambling harm?
Options for people experiencing gambling harm. So if you have already made the decision to change or you want to speak to someone to make up your mind, Amethyst Door is always open for you. It's free and it's confidential. If you're unsure or if you're looking for something more casual, National Gambling Helpline is there for you 24/7 if you want to speak to someone. If you're budgeting or if you need some help with financial planning, Anglicare NT offers have the financial counseling team there to help you. And if you prefer groups, there's Gamblers Anonymous, which Charles could speak more about. And self-exclusion, as Tanya just mentioned, is another handy option. Basically, you sign a data, exclude yourself, and you can always set limits in the Lotto office and on your own banking apps. So these are some of the tools and options.
Thanks, Louis. Katie, can you share some success stories from where Gambling and My Community program has made a positive difference?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, we have 5 local gambling harm educators trained up across the top end of the NT. And that took quite a few months to design with them and with the community what they wanted someone in the communities to have as knowledge. So their community identified who they would like to be these educators. Some of them took a bit of convincing to be in this role, and then talked with them about what sort of information they wanted to know, found out how to work together to make that information culturally sensitive because that wasn't available in the Northern Territory. And these 5 people are now trained up, confident, and leading groups every single week, talking to their community. So one in particular is a man called Declan. He lives in Warramunga in the Tiwi Islands, and he's doing such a good job. So he was recommended to us by the men's group out there. He was already volunteering his time to support men with like alcohol and drugs and like fighting challenges in their life. And he put his hand up first, straight up, and said, I want to have a go at this role. His community said, yep, we think that he's the right sort of person. So Declan first started off by learning information about Ding Ding, so learning that it is a scam, learning that it's made by people overseas. So these games are illegal in Australia, so they're made by people overseas who then target our most vulnerable communities in the most unfair ways, knowing that they have less access to education to know that these games are fake and they're filled with scams. So we were able to work together to find out the information his community wanted to know. They wanted to know who had made these games. So we're able to trace IP addresses and show the community members who had made these games, and then share information with the community about how the police, your bank, Centrelink can't help you if you've been scammed. These games are filled with scams, identity theft, bank accounts being drained. So Declan's out there sharing that information, and then he will help and sit with people to block all their accounts, change all their cards, do all the admin of getting new bank accounts, and show people how to prevent that happening in the future. So Declan has then been asked to do a second job as well. So now he's working about 30 hours a week, and he is getting very tired, but he's very happy. And he's been asked to sit on the board of the Skin Group clans out there as well. So he's really putting himself forward. He's only about 30, so he's putting himself forward to want to be a leader in the community. And Catholic Cares recently nominated him to do a leadership program with the NT government as well. So that's our biggest success story at the moment.
Can often hear a lot of really negative stories in this space, so it's good to hear that people are passionate and doing some really good work. Thanks, Katie. Okay, so Charles, what supports, if any, have been most helpful for people engaged with the NT Lived Experience Network?
I think mainly peer support, sharing of relevant lived experience, and networks and knowledge of supports that are available.
Great, thank you. Next one's for Matt. Matt, what are the community's perspectives on gambling policy reform?
As I mentioned, I'm a researcher, so I've sort of been running the NT-wide gambling surveys for the last 15 odd years. So we did them in 2015, 2018, and the most recent one published is 2023. In 2018, we sort of asked sort of the total sample, so that sort of representative of the population, a little bit less representative of our remote community people, but it certainly does capture some remote people. It's a large survey of 5,000 people, and there was a couple of questions around gambling in general. We asked people if they think there's too many pokies in the pubs, clubs, and casinos separately, and we sort of get up around 60% of people saying, yeah, we think there's too many pokies in pubs and clubs and so forth. But I think a more important question the survey asks is about making it essential that people need to be able to set money or time limits when they're gambling, and particularly on pokies. So when we ask, do you think people should have to set limits on their time and money when they're gambling on pokies, we get around 66% of the total population of the NT answering strongly or agree that, yes, we think people should have to do this on pokies. It's been a topic that's been around Australia and other states and jurisdictions for the last several years. We've had New South Wales, Tasmania, Victoria, all nearly implement a system where people would need to use a card to gamble on pokies. But there's always been a bit of a political backflip right before it was about to be introduced. So it's one of these things we sort of think that will have a big impact on people's harm, particularly when they're using the pokies. And we find, like I said, that 2/3 of people, that's across all regions across the territory. So it doesn't matter where we're looking at Darwin, Palmerston, Alice Springs, regional areas, remote communities. So, and even amongst our regular pokies players, so people who are playing the pokies at least monthly, we get around 62% of people saying, yeah, it would be a good idea if we had to set limits on how much money we spent when we play the pokies and gamble on the pokies. So I think that's an area that governments around Australia could look at, because it's certainly it's got support from the general population and the community. So watch this space. If you ever get a chance to pressure politicians, do it.
Tanya, how long does MVSE multi self exclusion apply for?
Yeah.
I got it out actually. There we go.
Okay, so you sign the deed. You keep the person who helps you facilitates it. They keep a copy. You keep a copy yourselves, and you have 72 hours from that time on that date to stop it. Yeah, it would have to go through the counsellor again, or whoever you've gone through it with. They will just contact Clubs New South Wales. You can't cancel once you've gone past that 72 hours. You can't cancel for 3 months. So the deeds go from 3 months to 4 years. So obviously, it's in the legislation. It is you can't. Right, I'm going on to the next question, sorry. So how long does the MVSE apply for? So, yeah, 72 hours cooling off period. You can change it back to scrapping it. You don't want it. You can't cancel for 3 months, but if you have a longer than 3 months, which goes to 6 months, you actually can't cancel for 6 months. So, and then it goes for 4 years is the maximum you can do it for, and you can apply for more than you can do to multiple deeds. So one deed can go up to 35 venues, but you just apply. You need to go through the counsellor to enable it, but you can get another one. You don't. It doesn't just stop at one lot of 35 different venues. You can have more than one. Okay.
Thanks, Tanya. And Erica. Noting that gambling harm is a national conversation, what consideration does the NT give to other states and territories?
Thank you. Thank you. Pardon me. For us as the NT gaming inspectors, we constantly consider other jurisdictions. Us as public servants, we definitely look past our border We believe that any gaming harm, if you're a pokies in harm, it's the same as you were from Victoria and then you come to Darwin. A baccarat player, a roulette player suffering harm in Victoria can travel to Alice Springs. So we are abreast and we keep cognizant of everything that's happening in other jurisdictions.
Sorry. Thanks, Erica. And now the final round of questions. So Louis, what are some options for people who are concerned about their family or friends gambling?
So the baseline is that we cannot change others' behavior. Only the gambler themselves can change their behavior. But also, meanwhile, we will also encourage them to protect their own finances. Support is also available for those affected by others. So the National Gambling Helpline 24/7 is available, and Amity's counselling is also available for people who are affected by others' gambling.
Great.
So yes.
Katie, what changes would you like to see in the way our communities understand and respond to gambling?
Yeah, so when I did 6 months of consultation, I spoke to people and said, why are people gambling in your community? And they said, boredom or a way to make money. There's no ways to make money out here. So we would love to see people firstly have access to far more fulfilling, culturally sensitive and culturally uplifting activities out in community. That would then definitely help a lot of the boredom. And the reason why people are gambling is it's a dopamine delivering activity, and there's not many activities out in community that can deliver that level of excitement and enjoyment, but also for people to see gambling as not a safe or reliable way to make money. People often saw it as a way to supplement income. So we want to sort of really spread the message that once you've bought all your food and all your power and all the things you need to live healthily for the week or the fortnight to your next pay, if you've got leftover money, you're an adult. You can do whatever you'd like with that money, but making sure people see gambling as entertainment and not a income producing method, and making sure people have access to food, power, rent, all before they spend their discretionary money on entertainment.
Thanks, Katie. Charles, next one's for you. What should family or friends do if they're worried about someone's gambling?
The things that work for me personally, I might suggest some of them. The first, obviously, go and get relevant supports, counseling, that sort of thing. But for me, what worked was seeing the intentional design of gambling products. They're designed to be a net loss for the person engaging with them, and also to hijack the nervous system. Another thing is not using a card or having a separate account for disposable income. And also CBT helped a lot for me, to repeatedly challenge thoughts, feelings, and that sort of thing when seeing imagery and walking past gambling spaces. An example is when someone wins like $2 on a poker machine, there's so much noise and you think they won like, thousands or something. That's pretty much.
Right. Thanks for sharing that, Charles. Matt, who's most at risk of experiencing harm from gambling?
Already pretty well discussed who's majorly at risk, but what I will discuss is the types of harms, and also just back up what these two people have just said is certainly with my work in remote communities, we found similar that people are chasing the money, and a lot of chasing the losses goes on with that too. And things like pokies are your ultimate sort of hijacker in terms of dopamine, time on devices. Basically, they get you sitting there, and the longer you sit in front of that machine and play, the more money you will lose. It's guaranteed with that type of product. But looking at the harms, like in 2023, we had around 19,000 adults were negatively impacted by someone else's gambling. So this was a 20%, 25% increase from the 2018 data. So that's around 19,000 people, and of that, over 11,000 of those people were experiencing 3 or more harms. So the type of harms, we collect gambling harms across emotional, psychological, relationship and family harms, financial harms, work study, and then there's criminal harm, so a little bit of that more serious end. And we found that sort of the most common forms of harm are the emotional, psychological, so people feeling stressed and anxious, and this is because of someone else's gambling I'm just talking about at the moment. We find similar harms occur for the people experiencing problems with their gambling, but particularly I think it's quite impactful to talk about how it impacts on other people around the gambler. The second most common type of harms for impact from others gambling is relationship or family harms, and that's around 12,000 people across the territory every year, and it was 13,000 for the emotional harms. Financial harms are more common for the person experiencing the harm, but they're the third most common type of harm when people are getting harmed. So the types of things there is running out of money for bills, running out of money for food, people withdrawing savings and things like that. So in 2023, we had around 6,000 people feeling stressed and anxious at least monthly. So this is happening really regularly for these people. Every month they're stressed and anxious because of someone else's gambling. And at the more serious end, we had verbal aggression occurring towards these people for around 4,000 people across the territory, and a couple of thousand of the people are experiencing that monthly or more. So this is more likely to be sort of in an intimate partner sort of way that they're experiencing verbal aggression. So other sort of the other harms like the emotional, psychological, are feeling ashamed or having regrets. So there's around 9,000 people across the territory that were feeling like this, and 4,000 of those people feeling like that every month. So it's the impacts on not just gamblers experiencing problems, that then impacts between 5 and 10 other people. So we had rates of problem gambling, so that's personal harms, of around 2.5% of the total population. So that translates to around 10%, which sort of backs up that there's around at least five people getting harmed from someone else's gambling. So I think in terms of advocacy, I think it's important to understand that gambling just doesn't impact the gambler. It's impacting broader community, families, households.
Thanks, Matt. Tanya, what can someone do if they want to remove themselves from multi-venue self-exclusion?
This is a bit more complicated than actually signing up for the MVSE. And I think it's really important when the client understands it's not that you're trying to put them off, but that they are locked into a legal agreement. And so you must have completed 6 months of your self-exclusion, as I said before. I'm actually reading it to what they sent me, to what you have to do. You must book an appointment with your local Gamble Aware provider. So that would be a counsellor or, I think that's just a counsellor or the Hospitality NT. And you have to do up to 6 counselling sessions. So it's not an easy or quick process to come off of it. And then that's been completed, then you also have to do, with the counsellor, you also have to do an assessment, and it's quite a long assessment and answer all the questions. And even then, once you've completed that, all that gets sent back with a letter from the counsellor to MVSE, and then they measure whether they think that you should come off of it. It's still kind of like not over yet. So, it's important to note that if the MVSE feels that your relationship towards gambling has not changed significantly enough to warrant an early termination, your request might not be granted. So it is a long process. It's a serious process, and it will expire on the date that you've put how many months or years that you've requested. That's the easiest way to go through it. But yeah, to be revoked, there is a bit of a session that six counselling sessions you have to go through. So yeah.
Thanks, Tanya. Yeah, I think it's worth noting on that, isn't it, that the informed consent bit, making sure they are fully informed of the process. There was a good example at the launch on Monday that we live in Darwin, it's a small place. And if you exclude yourself from the whole venues of everywhere, say Uncle Bob's having a 60th at the CAS Club, you're not going to be able to go. So that informed consent piece. Yeah. Thanks, Tanya. And finally, Kieran. So to conclude, what regulatory insights can you share with us, that being good, bad, or indifferent?
Is that we license employees to work in a gaming room. And what we notice is that we get a lot of short-term people applying, like backpackers, people only here for the dry season or whatever it might be, and they don't really have a lot of gaming experience. So what we would love to see is actually the venues understanding the role of their employees. It's not just about paying out the machines, it's supervising the room, recognising red flags and taking appropriate action. So that's one of the biggest observations that we see just in our role.
Great. Thanks, Kieran. So that concludes the panel for today. I want to thank you all so much for sharing your expertise. That was really interesting and insightful. And before we do finish up, does anyone have any questions? I'll just we can all right.
It's not really a question, but our organisation is a money management provider and we work in remote communities. So I really want to thank Katie for all that info, because I had researched your thing online and whatever, but you just told us there's not much there. So really appreciated what you were doing and how you're doing it and everything. So, and because at lots of these forums, remote communities don't get a Guernsey, thank you for having that.
I'm very happy to give you more information.
Yeah.
Websites,
A little bit more time needed.
What you've given is great. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Any more questions? Run round to you, Lindsay. Get my steps up today. Here we go.
So this is to anyone that can answer it. What changes do you expect to see in the gambling sector from organisations working together after this week?
From what perspective? Like just.
I mean, obviously the whole point of this week has just been about communication, organisations, you know, getting together and sharing knowledge. Moving forward from this week, how do you see, you know, what is it that you see from this week happening in the future?
Well, I'm always happy to provide stats, and if people want that, so yep.
I think it's good just to get out there what everyone is doing. I mean, I know Louis and I work quite closely together. Louis came and did training for about 60 of the Catholic Care staff in the last month on gambling. And then we're working together on some more Ding Ding related training as well at the moment. But yeah, working together and finding out what we're all doing. Quite a lot of us are all funded under the same research grants and like community benefit fund grants. So yeah, always happy to help. We're actually kind of trying to pull up a NT scambling network at the moment. So Ding Ding, scambling, online casinos, all the same thing. So I will be sending emails out to you and you can also distribute amongst everybody else. But ways to find out what the Ding Ding looks like in all the remote communities we all work in. Someone might be in law, someone might be in money management, someone might be in health promotion, and coming together and sharing all our resources. So on our website will be session plans and education resources, and we're hoping to have a flip book people can order for free and we can distribute it and give you training on how to deliver that education in your communities, because I can't be everywhere at once.
Oh, we have another.
Sorry. Tanya, multi-venue self-exclusion. What is the likelihood of someone coming off multi-venue self-exclusion early if they want to? And has it ever been successful, to your knowledge?
I haven't had anybody come through the door and they've started the process, but they very rarely complete it. And they do come in not knowing that they need up to 6 sessions. That's a lot, especially when you're dealing with long wait lists and understaffed, and it's so there haven't been a lot. I think we have had a couple through the door at Amity, but again, I haven't experienced it. So yeah, they start it, but they don't finish it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. Any more questions before we wrap?
Well, is that
Yeah, you can, absolutely.
is it deliberately sort of made to be hard to get off, basically, because someone's gone and sort of realised that they've got some serious gambling problems and they can't control their gambling? Is it deliberately like set up to be difficult to get off? Is that
So yeah,
that is
looking
the
at
idea?
the- yeah.
Does it get published anywhere? How many people are self-excluding per year and that sort of thing at all? Is there any reporting on that?
My knowledge, I do answer this one because I know. Not to my knowledge, I do believe that Hospitality NT can get that data. I'm not sure if it's shared anywhere publicly yet.
Has there ever been an evaluation of the self-exclusion scheme?
I'm not sure, to be honest, Matt.
Interesting.
That's a question for Hospitality NT, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. Any more questions before we move along? No? Okay, wonderful. Make sure that's off before I put it down and make a really loud noise. Great. Okay, so thank you again. Let's have another round of applause for the panel today. Amazing. So now we're going to take a break to enjoy lunch. There's going to be food in the area outside of the doorway. Then we'll return at 12 o'clock for the consultation. So you see 3 tables here. One is for staff members of organisations who may support clients who gamble. Doesn't have to be clients who gamble. If you just want to hear what's happening, you're welcome to stay. One is for anyone who'd like to share their thoughts on gambling harm minimisation in the Territory. And one is for people who are part of the Territory's culturally and linguistically diverse community. If you're not sticking around for the consultations, I want to thank you again for coming to today's G-Hall. So Gambling Harm Awareness Week. We do have QR codes to the feedback surveys around, and we would greatly appreciate if you could give us feedback. It helps us to improve this for next year and see what people actually want to hear. So please take the message of this week with you. Start a chat with a mate, check in on your family, and look after yourself. The more open we all are about gambling harm minimisation, the lighter the weight becomes for everyone. Thank you. That was amazing. Great speech. We have it and we will share that with them. I will stay for the competition. I'm like, that's very on trend for Tanya. Oh my god.